be a 10. So we'll start here, do that one, that one, that one, that one. This will be easy. Welcome back, everybody. We're out here on a cold day. It's about 40 degrees. We're working on this 2008 Sentra. We're going to do spark plugs. Looks like a tough job. It's not. It's just super complicated. When you start, you'll have an engine cover. It's two 10mm bolts, and then you'll notice all the spark plugs, except for one, are under the intake manifold. So you've got to get the intake manifold off. That seems like it's a big job, but it's not really. It just takes a little while. So I'm gonna give you some pointers. First of all, buy a gasket. It was like 11 bucks at AutoZone. Okay, you will need a 13mm, I think it's 13mm spark plug socket. It's laying here somewhere. Haha. 14mm spark plug socket, because these are small. That should be the only specialty tool you require, is that small spark plug socket. Give you a little bit of advice. Take your intake hose off, because in order to do this, you'll have to like pull the intake manifold. And my recommendation is take the throttle body off. It's 4 8mm bolts. It has coolant in it, and also on Nissans, most Nissans, if you unplug them, it resets the memory in them, and they won't know where like the idle is. So you'll have to relearn all that. There's a special process that, or you can do it with a computer or whatever. Or if you just take the throttle body off and don't touch the blade inside, and just let it lay over, you don't have to unhook the coolant lines, you don't have to unhook it, you don't have to program anything. So there's 4 8mm bolts. Take that intake pipe off, take your 4 bolts loose, and it will just lay over, okay? And also what you can do is I will spray the inside and the back side of it with, they make throttle body air intake cleaner. You'll have a bracket here that holds it. It's 1 10mm bolt there, and you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 10mm there, and then this sensor. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the sensor attached. I unplugged it, and I'm going to take this hose loose, and then this right here, you can just take that loose, just pop it out, or you can take it loose right there, whatever. And then right back here, you will have your, this should be your brake booster hose. Slides on. A little trick, if those won't come off, is I sprayed them with PB Blaster, WD-40 something. Spray those on and do them last. That way it's got time to creep down in there and bust up all that corrosion. But I've got most of the hard stuff. I'll give you another bit of advice. When you're working on these Allen keys, be careful, because if you're out here with a ratchet, that's the positive terminal. So if you're out here with a ratchet, just be careful. I used a box end. They're 8mm. They look like that. The other thing is too, I recommend this bracket right here. You got 2 of these brackets to hold that on. Take that off, makes it easier to get to that bolt. So I've got basically everything broke loose. I'm going to take these bolts out, pull that off, and then we'll get to the spark plugs themselves. Intake manifold is off. So I thought this is the PCV valve, but on most cars it goes over and goes into the intake pipe. This goes into the intake manifold, so you'll have to remove it right here. It's just a clip. And then that hose right there on that sensor was insane. Like, I was afraid I was going to break it. It was so tight. I had to like fight to get it off. So when you get to this stage, be very careful. That's just open intake. I'm going to spray carburetor cleaner down in there. Here's your injectors. There's our spark plugs. So we're going to do them one at a time here. Those should be 8s or 10s. They will be a 10. So we'll start here, do that one, that one, that one, that one. This will be easy. This is an easy job. That's the hardest part, is getting this loose. So let's bust one out and see what happens. Since your intake is open, anything that goes in would go into the head or into the engine. Here's my advice: put a magnetic dish up here. So when you take the bolt loose, you go here with it. If you put a magnetic dish down here, you come over this way and bump your elbow or whatever, you take a chance on going there. Put your bolts up there. Got one out. Now we'll get a spark plug out. Got one out. It appears to be the factory plug, and it's heavily worn. We went with the Denso Iridium TTs. So we're going to jam one of these in there real quick, and then we'll just keep going. So here's the issue I ran into. 14 took it out, but when I put the new one in, the 14 was really loose, like it wouldn't even stay in the socket. So I had to go to a 9/16 5/16, a little over ½ inch, to get the new ones in. So I don't know if the new ones are smaller, this socket's just messed up inside or what, but just keep that in mind. When I went to use the 14mm spark plug socket, they just kept falling out. So when you're taking everything apart, pay attention to if there is oil on the socket, on the spark plug, or on the spark plug boot. That means your spark plug tube seals, which anybody that's ever worked on Nissan from a 240 to a Z, Murano, Ultima, anything, they're notorious for leaking on Nissans. Well, you've got the intake off, this would be a good time to replace your valve cover gasket and spark plug tube seals. So just keep that in mind. We've got all 4 of the old ones out. 1 and 3 were definitely leaking oil. Cylinder 2 is running super lean apparently or something. But they're all out. Another bit of recommendation is, if you're doing this, put your extension and your socket in, start them by hand, and then start ratcheting. That way you know it's not cross-threading. The next thing I'm going to do, spray everything out with carbon choke cleaner. Let everything run out. Sprayed some in there, sprayed the throttle body. I'm going to replace the gasket. You should just see this little thing right here. It should just let you, there should be alignment notches, and it should let you just pull it out like such. It's just basically just O-rings that are linked together. Okay, pitch that in the recycling. Get your new one. If your kit comes with the O-ring on the throttle body, replace that. I've reused them probably 100 times. If it comes with one, replace it. If it doesn't, I've reused them and never had an issue. I say that, some out there's going to be like, well, I did reused it and had an issue. So just put everything back. Make sure everything is good and flat, level. Okay, this is the Mall brand one. AutoZone kept it in stock. If you need the part number, it's right there, MS19599. AutoZone had it in stock. It was like $15.99. What's crazy was the Duralast one was like $10 more. I'd rather have the Mall. So now that everything is good, everything's cleaned up, I'm gonna clean up spark plugs, boxes, stuff like that. Start putting everything back together. Put the manifold on, get the bolts, well, bolt those down first. Put the manifold on, get those bolts back on, get everything together, and then just go through and tighten everything down. Then we'll fire it up. Give you a little pointer here, something I ran into on the Maxima that I'm fighting. Don't go crazy tightening these down. What happened on the Maxima was somebody stripped this out. On most of your coil packs, this is where it gets its ground from. There's not a ground wire in here normally. It grounds itself to the head, plus that's what holds tension on it. So if it loses this, it will lose its ground and it will move up and down. On that car, I could push it down and it would run fine, let off of it, and it would start misfiring. So I'm gonna have to re-tap a hole in there. So don't go crazy on these, you're going into plastic too. All right, all those are tightened down. All this is good. So I got it bolted back down. What I did was I got it up here, put that bolt in, just barely finger tight to kind of hold it. Put that one in finger tight, that one in finger tight, that one, then that one. Intake literally has 1, 2, and you'll have a pinchy. Okay, so go over. Make sure when you do this, you get it seated really well. I start on this side because this doesn't move, that moves. So if you need to move it, like push this over to get it in there, you can. You can't push this over. I hope that makes sense to you. It makes sense to me. So we'll start here. And what I recommend is start on the bottom, work your way around top. Make sure the bottom goes on, or you can take a flathead and like this little tab. When you get, see these little tabs? When you go to go in, see how it's catching? It will not just go over that lip of the throttle body. Come on, what is, I've never had one fight me like this. There we go, buddy. Woo, okay, that's on. This is on. Cool. Okay, make sure on this upper one, it's got this little tab goes between those two marks there. This is fully seated all the way around. Pull it up till it meets that tab. Grab your Phillips head. You'll need a little stubby guy. Little stubby guy. You can do this with a socket too, a nut driver, whatever. I just had a screwdriver laying around, so cool. That's tight, that's tight. Make sure you put this back in. That's another PCV type valve. Okay. Grab the pliers here. Pliers. Pull it up. Cool. That should be everything. Okay. So now comes a moment of truth. So, a little bit of advice. I always spray everything full of carbon choke cleaner, and that's why it takes a second start sometimes, because of but she's running good. A little bit of smoke come out like I started to do the carbon choke cleaner. There is no check engine light. Idling good. Give it a little gassy poo. Cool. Running great. I'm going to turn it back off, and then we'll do the radiator. So the last thing to do here will be engine cover. Like that. Your 2 tins. And it's done. I'm going to turn it off, jack it up, let the radiator drain. I'm going to suck out that fluid, change the air filter. There'll be videos that pop up there. If this video helped you, make sure you please hit that like and subscribe button. Helps me keep making videos like this, and it's less time I gotta go to my day job.